Hello, everybody. My name is Gilda Ross. I am the Glenbard Student and Community Projects Coordinator. I am so happy you are here for this very, very important discussion. I've been waiting for this for a year, and I'm so glad you could join us. This is the 26th year of the Glenbard Parent Series, and it's our mission to bring distinguished thought leaders like Dr. Gholdy Muhammad to our community. And so I'm glad you could be here.
Good evening, parents. I'm here to introduce our amazing speaker, Dr. Gholdy Muhammad. Dr. Gholdy Muhammad is a highly acclaimed, award-winning associate professor of language and literacy at the University of Illinois in Chicago. Her interests are situated in the historical foundations of literacy development and the writing practices among Black communities. In her work, she strives to shape the national conversation around best practices in culturally responsive instruction for educating youth and teachers and young people across the United States and South Africa. We are delighted she is back home in Chicago and delighted she is here with us at GPS tonight.
And now we'll switch it to questions, comments, beautiful remarks. I know we're going to hear from our genius students now, and I just want to say thank you for listening.
This is an amazing book. This is an amazing chat. Don't go anywhere, anybody, because now we're going to hear from some amazing students. These students were selected, and special thanks to the Equity and Inclusion Committee led by Susanna Malone, who helped bring these parents here tonight, brought you these beautiful students. So Egypt, you go first.
Hi, my name is Egypt Hildebrand, and I'm a freshman from Glenbard East. And I wanted to ask you, what has inspired you to do this important work?
Well, Egypt, it's you. It's the children who ultimately inspire me. You know, I see the light in your thinking, the light in your eyes, the beauty of your intellect. It's like you teach me and I want to do more for you. So I'm first inspired by children. You know, I'm a professor, so I don't get to teach like I was a classroom teacher, but I teach summer institutes. I teach an institute, for an example, called Black Girls Write in the summers. And Black girls come together and we write to define who we are, to resist and for joy, all these things. And it's like those moments where I feel extra inspired. I'm also, number two, inspired by the teachers. I work with so many teachers who show up every day, giving their best and their most excellence for our children. And I have to say, I'm inspired by the problems of education because, you know, I don't understand why we still have the why don't these 5 pursuits sort of, or something like it, ground the education as a nation? Why are we still having, for an example, Egypt? They said we have 18%, the nation said, the nation's report card said that we have 18% reading proficiency among Black 4th graders. I said, is that a mistake? I said, we failed over 80% of someone's child and the whole nation isn't an outrage. See, it's those moments where I stay up and I rest, but it keeps me up working and striving for the betterment of our schools and the betterment of education. So thank you for that question.
Thank you, Egypt. Next, Crystal, you are up.
Hi, my name is Crystal. I'm a junior at Glenbard North. And my question for you is, what authors have influenced you on your career journey?
Wow, there's been so many. Zora Neale Hurston, a lot of Black women writers for me, because that was my dissertation topic, Black women writers, Black girl writers. So I'm first thinking of like Mary McLeod Bethune and Zora Neale Hurston and Bell Hooks. And I'm also thinking of Carter G. Woodson and W.B. Du Bois and Maria Stewart, and more contemporaries like Cynthia Dillard and Gloria Lassing-Billings and Bettina Love. These are more current day writers. the writers in my youth camps over the summers, we call ourselves brother and sister authors. So, there's sometimes I write alongside of 11, 12, 13, 17-year-old, and I feel so inspired. In my first Black Girls Write at UIC in 2010, there was a writer. She was 16, and she wrote something so special. I kept it in my pocket, Crystal. When I was getting my PhD and I struggled, I cried a lot in graduate school. And I would pull out of my pocket the 16-year-old's writing that gave me strength. So, I'm saying this to say it's the young people, it's the people of today, it's the people of yesterday that gives me strength to write and to think. And it doesn't have to, sometimes we forget that children are ultimately the inspiration for our thinking. So thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Caden, you are up next.
Hey, Caden.
Ms. Muhammad, so for students of color this past year, it's been pretty difficult and tumultuous to go through school. And a lot of us don't have access or at least a good understanding of how to deal with our mental health. So what are some suggestions for dealing with that in order to live like a better, not only like educational career, but also like a better life?
Wow. These questions are so beautiful. Do you know that? Caden, you're beautiful. Your question is beautiful. Caden, one thing I struggled with is that we return to school like we left. It's like pandemic happened, we stopped coming physically into school. And then we came back and just kind of started picking up. We didn't have a class for wellness, for healing. And I'm talking very generally. I'm not talking about your school because I don't want to make assumptions. But again, I work with the nation schools, right? We didn't have meditation and wellness and just how's your heart moments. How's your heart doing, Caden, today? How are you feeling? We didn't have it. We just picked back up with math. I mean, was that your experience too? Yeah, we just picked back up. And then we became so frantic that we lost the assessments. We need to assess. And so most schools were doing so much testing. And it's what about the children's mind, spirit, heart, wellness? And you got to keep in mind what Caden is saying here in your question, that when there's a problem of not having enough mental health supports and resources, but then when you add intersections of being a person of color, where the system has already not served you well, has already marginalized you, it feels heavier. That's what you're saying, I believe. And so this is not on you, my dear student. This is on the adults. We have to think, if the children are saying what they need, why aren't we providing it? Adults can think about bringing professional development in for teachers about wellness and how to support with social emotional learning and mental health for the teachers, for the parents, for the children, much like me, but it'll be like a therapist or a mental health professional. We can think about starting student groups. We can do book clubs and readings and writings. We can have moments in the class period or a whole class period to focus on our wellness, our safety, our comfort. How are we doing? How are we doing? How are we doing? Our heart. We can create the spaces when one doesn't exist. And I encourage the adults, the parents to, if they're not existing, do not rely on, create the space. All we need is each other to figure it out. And I guarantee you, Caden, if we had a session where we said mental health is an issue, wellness is an issue, what can we do? We had a whole hour together. We would probably come up with 5 programs, a reading book list. We would come up with all sorts of things. So I'm speaking to the whole community now. What are we waiting for? Our children are telling us what they need. So thank you too for your question and for bringing that to our attention.
As we close tonight, what is your final word to the young people and your final word to the adults that are listening in?
Well, if I can give one final word, like literally one word, it would be the word of possibility. You all, I want to remind you that our ancestors were doing 5 learning pursuits in the 1800s. It's 2022. They didn't have our resources. They didn't have the genius that we have from them. They didn't have so much, but they were still able to do those 5 pursuits and their learning experiences. Certainly we can do them today. And if we know more, we should do more. If we know better, we should do better. So my word that I want to leave you with is possibility. We're not going to sit on, is it difficult? Can it happen? The answer is yes. Will it be difficult? Maybe, maybe not. But we are past the point where skills are enough. It was never enough. Even back then, it's not enough now. Our children need and deserve to know themselves, identity, the skills. They need intellectualism. They need consciousness and criticality and justice, and they need joy. I don't want joy to be an afterthought. I want it to be implemented, included in every day of our school. So I hope that your takeaways of these possibilities were worthwhile for you. When I give talks, I become like a part of your community. And so I encourage you to reach out, to connect, to never feel like you're doing this work in isolation and figuring it out on your own. So just know that with community, we are stronger. So thank you again for listening.
With community, we are stronger. It's hard to feel positive these days, but you have really given us positivity, and I'm so grateful. Our kids need and deserve joy, identity, criticality. This is so, so important. Get the book and come back. Building off of tonight's program, we've got some really important programs. We'll continue these conversations coming up. Don't miss Dr. Allen. Don't miss Julie Lycott-Hames. Come back, share, and thank you so much, Dr. Muhammad. Thank you so much. Thank you, students. Thank you, Equity and Inclusion Committee, Susanna, and all of the people that work so hard in this regard. You keep up the good work, Dr. Muhammad. We need you.
Yes, thank you. And I'm glad to be so close to you all.
Oh, that's the best news. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your time. Come back soon and stay safe.
Yes.
Bye-bye.